Hi, this is Kristy with Guidepost to Wellness. I just read a really interesting article today. I think I got it a couple weeks ago in my email from Jon Barron with Baseline of Health. I get his newsletter all the time. He has some really fascinating articles. And today's article was called When Medications Die. I thought that was pretty interesting because I've heard a lot of controversy. My mom always keeps really old prescriptions, and she said she was told by a doctor that, they don't expire. I know she always kept pet prescriptions because they are really a lot more expensive, and she would keep those for years and years and years. Well, it turns out that that's true. There are a lot of medications that they may decrease slightly in effectiveness, but they're still actually okay to keep using them. And the American College of Pharmacology states that the date stamped on the medication indicates about a 10% loss of effectiveness. And they also look at how they're stored and kept, and the worst case scenario of keeping them in a place where maybe there's direct sunlight and temperature wasn't right, humidity and things like that. But what was really interesting is Jon Barron talked about several studies that were done. There was a large test that was done in California, and there was also a test done by the military. And these two different tests took a look at medications that were a minimum of 15 years past their expiration date, which is fascinating. And they actually found that 90% of the medications were still effective. And that's tremendous because we spend a lot of money on our medications. The pharmacology business is big business, big pharma. So if there's ways that we could save money by keeping certain prescriptions, even if they're past their expiration date, that's a good thing to know. The important thing is to understand which prescriptions it really has to do with. And the studies showed that codeines and hydrocodone and pain medications of that nature, antihistamines and anti-anxieties drugs were some of the drugs that really stayed effective for the longest period of time. So I believe now they're actually going to be able to start adding longer expiration dates to medications. That was one of the hopes of the studies was to be able to do that so people could keep their medications longer. Now, there are some medications that are more delicate, and I think it also depends on what the medium is, if it's in water or liquid or something like that. So naturally, antibiotics, there are a couple that do withstand for a while, but antibiotics in general degrade pretty quickly, and taking a degraded antibiotic is not something that you want to do because that can really lead to resistance. Drug-resistant strains of bacterium and things in our body. So you don't want to use an expired antibiotic. Insulin is another type of medication that really degrades quickly. And that one definitely is one that needs to be refrigerated. So taking care of medications is really important too. And when you take a look at supplements, a lot of the same things apply to supplements, but it really depends on how they're packaged and how they're stored. Most of us store our medications in the wrong place. The bathroom medicine cabinet is the wrong place. Somebody should redesign medicine cabinets and put them in like a pantry or a special cabinet away from humidity and light, because that is not a good place to store your medications. But when it comes to supplements, vitamins generally are good for 1 to 2 years past the expiration date on the bottle. Minerals can stay a lot longer. Alcohol-based tinctures can stay for years and years and years. That's the benefit of a tincture in alcohol, especially if it's kept in like a dark amber bottle or something like that, and you keep it away from the light. Homeopathic medicines also have a very, very long shelf life, so those are good things too. From supplement perspective, things that are alive like enzymes and probiotics, those are not going to store as well. You're going to want to follow the instructions on them, and they're going to degrade pretty quickly. And many oils, fish oils, krill oil, primrose oils, any of those types of things, they're much more delicate and they can degrade very, very quickly. And believe it or not, a lot of the oils that you actually find on the shelves in health food stores, any stores, grocery stores, are actually rancid by the time we get them, especially if they're in a clear bottle. Don't buy any oils that are in a clear bottle because they degrade with the light hitting them. So just a little something to think about. So storage is an important factor. You want to keep all medications, herbs, supplements, and prescriptions, you want to keep them out of the light. Make sure you keep them in the dark brown bottles for the prescriptions, or opaque bottles. You want to keep them away from the heat. I know people that sometimes keep medications like in a cabinet in the kitchen, which isn't going to be good if it's near the sink with humidity, if it's near the stove with heat. So you want to make sure you kind of try to keep them away from that, keep them away from moisture. And like I mentioned, really, they're you don't want to keep any medications that you're going to use over a long period of time in the bathroom, because they're going to degrade much more quickly due to the humidity and things like that. So one last thing I wanted to hit on that Jon Barron talked about in his article, and again, I will put the link to that article below, is disposal. We used to be taught to flush them all down the toilet, because thinking that that would keep anybody else from taking them, perhaps taking a medication that was dangerous for them, kids experimenting and taking a pain medicine or something like that. But those go right into the water supply. And it's already bad enough when there are medications that we take that come out in our urine, such as insulin, birth controls, and some vitamins and things. Those are going into our water supply, and most of our filtration systems don't take care of that. So there are two really best ways to dispose of them. To make sure that they aren't ingested, you're going to want to put any medications that you want to dispose of, like with coffee grounds or cat litter or true refuse, maybe some oil or, cooking leftovers or things like that, into a bag, into your garbage. Make sure you seal that up really well. You want to make it unappealing so that animals or things like that aren't going to ingest it either. But what's really nice is more places now are coming up with ways for you to dispose of medications. And if you go to disposemymeds.org, and I'll put that link down below, and you put in your zip code, you'll find private small pharmacies that will take medications and properly dispose of them. And I know that my local VA that I go to, at all of their pharmacy locations, they have a drop-off also for medications. So those are really good things to think about too. So take a look at your medications, take a look at your supplements, and don't fear unless it's certain ones that I've mentioned before, and Jon Barron goes through a little bit more in his article. Things like antibiotics, definitely should have taken them all in the first place. But pain medicines and many things like that, ointments, many of those things can stay good for a very, very long time. So you don't have to run out and get a new prescription for any of those types of things. So hopefully you found that informative. I know that I did. That's why I wanted to share it with people, because medications, supplements, all those things are just such a big part of our healthcare costs that I just wanted to share with you, so you don't hurry up and throw them away when they're expired. You can continue to use them, and hopefully that'll save a little money in the long run. So if you're interested in any more of the videos, click the subscribe button down below. Hopefully we'll have something more interesting to talk about. If you've got any suggestions, comments, please, I'd love to read about them. So thanks, and have a great day. Be well.